Imagine for a moment that your smartphone, your computer, and even the satellites that connect us to the world depend on a metal so rare and precious that only a handful of countries control its production. That metal is beryllium, and right now, Russia is quietly orchestrating one of the most strategic industrial operations of this century. But wait, because this story begins with a troubling mystery. How did a country that once possessed the world's most advanced nuclear technology lose complete control of such a critical metal? And more importantly, why does Vladimir Putin now consider its recovery a top national security priority? To understand the scale of this silent revolution, we must first grasp what makes beryllium so extraordinary. Imagine a metal twice as light as aluminum but 6 times stronger than steel. A material capable of withstanding extreme temperatures while retaining its unique properties. In the nuclear industry, it plays an absolutely irreplaceable role. It moderates, absorbs, and reflects neutrons with surgical precision. Today, the United States controls more than 60% of global production, followed closely by China. This dominance is no accident. It is a deliberate geopolitical strategy. Because whoever controls beryllium controls cutting-edge technologies, aerospace, defense electronics, and above all, the future of nuclear energy. But here's where the story gets fascinating. In Buryatia, deep in Siberia, lies the Ermakovsky deposit, one of the world's richest sources of beryllium. With a content of over 1%, it far exceeds international standards. Extraction is not only possible, but extraordinarily profitable. So why has this geological treasure remained unexploited for over 30 years? The answer takes us back to the darkest years of modern Russian history. In 1989, at the height of perestroika, the Soviet Union abruptly abandoned beryllium mining. Peace movements demanded an end to nuclear programs, and Gorbachev bowed to international pressure. The mines closed one by one, first Ermakovsky in Buryatia, then Marinskoye in the Urals. But the real drama was just beginning. Extracting beryllium from ore is only the first step. Refining it, a complex and dangerously toxic process, requires cutting-edge technical expertise. In the Soviet Union, this critical technology was concentrated in a single plant, the Ulba Metallurgical Plant in USD Kamenogorsk, Kazakhstan. Built in 1949 to supply the Soviet atomic program, this plant quickly became the nerve center of the beryllium industry. But in 1991, the collapse of the USSR transformed this strategic infrastructure into foreign territory. Overnight, Russia lost access to its own technology. Independent Kazakhstan inherited a poisoned legacy, huge stocks of enriched uranium and beryllium, enough to manufacture dozens of nuclear weapons. The cost of maintaining and securing these materials was astronomical, and the young state could not afford it. That's when the Americans struck with deadly efficiency. Operation Sapphire, carried out in the utmost secrecy, allowed the United States to repatriate 600 kilograms of highly enriched uranium directly from the Ulba plant. In exchange, Kazakhstan gained access to Western oil technology and massive investments. Russia, then in the throes of its own economic and political upheavals, was unable to oppose this strategic move. As a result, it became dependent on Kazakh imports for its supply of beryllium, an untenable situation for a country with global technological ambitions. But this is where the story takes a spectacular turn. For decades, behind the closed doors of Russian laboratories, the country's best institutes worked silently on a revolutionary solution. Their mission, to develop a complete beryllium production cycle, from extraction to refining, entirely controlled within the country. This technological quest is not just a question of sovereignty, it is a race against time for the future of energy. Russia is quietly preparing one of the most important revolutions in the modern nuclear industry, molten salt reactors. Last April, Vladimir Putin signed a presidential decree accelerating the development of these revolutionary reactors. Why the sudden urgency? The answer lies in a few words: the definitive elimination of nuclear waste. Imagine reactors capable not only of producing clean energy, but also of consuming the most dangerous radioactive waste, those minor actinides that remain toxic for millennia. This is exactly what molten salt reactors promise, and their operation requires one absolutely critical component, a mixture of lithium fluoride and beryllium. The quantities required are enormous. If the technology proves successful, Russia will need tens of tons of pure beryllium every year. Hence the strategic urgency of restarting extraction at the Ermakovsky deposit. This year, construction of a major industrial complex is beginning in Buryatia. In a few years, Russia will finally have its own beryllium, breaking its dependence on foreign sources once and for all. But the geopolitical implications go far beyond energy. This industrial renaissance is part of a much larger project, the reconstruction of Russia's scientific power. Alongside beryllium, Moscow is relaunching its oceanographic fleet with ships such as the academic Treshnikov, the Pole North, and the Ivan Frolov. This fleet is not a luxury, but a key geopolitical tool. The stakes in the Arctic are enormous. To prove its rights to the Arctic continental shelf before the United Nations, Russia must provide irrefutable scientific evidence. Beneath these icy waters lie estimated reserves of oil, gas, and rare metals that could redefine the global economic balance. But the real revolution is the convergence of all these technologies. Russian beryllium will fuel molten salt reactors, which will finally solve the problem of nuclear waste. This clean and unlimited energy source will give Russia a decisive technological advantage in the global race towards decarbonization. While the West is still debating the energy solutions of the future, Russia is methodically building the technological foundations of tomorrow. Control of beryllium is just the first piece of an infinitely more complex geopolitical puzzle, where energy independence and technological sovereignty will determine the balance of power in the 21st century. This quiet renaissance of Russian beryllium could well mark the beginning of a new geopolitical era, where rare metals become the new instruments of global power.